The twin suns of Valora Prime burned bright above the royal city, their light dancing across towers made of crystal and steel. Inside the great hall, guards from a dozen alien races stood tall in polished armor, each one a living symbol of power. Among them stood a human, small, quiet, and out of place. His name was Eli Rains, the first human ever chosen to serve as a royal bodyguard. When Princess Seraphine Vale entered the hall, every warrior bowed. Her armor shimmered like liquid gold, her violet eyes sharp with pride. But when she saw the tiny human soldier at the end of the line, she stopped and laughed. The sound was like cold bells echoing through the chamber. "Tell me this is a joke," she said, her voice dripping with amusement. "Is this little creature supposed to protect me?" The alien guards laughed with her, their deep voices rumbling like thunder. One whispered, "Humans are soft, they break easily." Another added, "He'll need armor just to lift her sword." Eli didn't reply, he only bowed his head slightly, his expression calm. He had heard worse before, on battlefields where no one believed humans could survive. He was trained on Earth's Defense Corps, a veteran of the Frost Wars and the Siege of Orion Gate. But none of that mattered here, not to these beings who saw only size and shape. Seraphine turned away, still smiling. "Very well," she said. "If the council wishes to amuse me with a human pet, I shall play along." Eli followed silently behind her, each step echoing against the marble floor. Days passed in the palace, and Eli became a quiet shadow. He studied alien weapons, royal schedules, and security grids. The other guards mocked him daily, hiding his gear, making jokes behind his back. Yet he never raised his voice, never reacted. He trained alone at night in the empty courtyard, moving with precision and focus. His small frame hid a lifetime of discipline. Princess Seraphine often watched from her balcony, curiosity mixing with pride. Why didn't he fight back? Why didn't he argue? She decided he was harmless, a ceremonial guard at best. Until the day the distress signal arrived. The alarm blared through the halls, an urgent call from the mining world of Dara 6. Unknown forces were attacking, entire colonies disappearing without a trace. The council ordered Seraphine to lead a rescue team. Eli was assigned as part of her escort. She frowned. "You'll slow us down, human." Eli met her gaze calmly. "Then I'll run faster, Your Highness." The princess rolled her eyes and boarded her ship. Within hours, they were descending through the stormy atmosphere of Dara 6. The planet was chaos, fire raining from the sky. The enemy, the Vorn swarm, mechanical predators that consumed metal and flesh alike, had already reached the surface. Explosions shook the ground as Seraphine's squad spread out to protect the civilians. Eli scanned the horizon and saw movement, patterns the others missed. "They're not attacking," he said quietly. "They're surrounding us." No one listened, until the first wave struck from behind. In seconds, alien soldiers fell, their shields crushed under metallic claws. Seraphine fought like a storm, her blade glowing with plasma light. But for every Vorn she cut down, 10 more appeared. Eli grabbed a fallen blaster and moved with speed that shocked even her. He fired precise bursts, covering the retreat of wounded troops. Then he pulled the princess toward a narrow tunnel entrance. "This way. There's an old mining shaft. It leads underground." She hesitated, pride burning in her chest. "I do not run from machines," she said. Eli looked at her, calm but firm. "Then stay and die, Your Highness. I'm going to save your people." For the first time, her pride cracked. She followed him, and together they led survivors deep beneath the burning surface. Hours later, when the noise of war faded, Seraphine stood among the rescued miners. She turned to Eli, his uniform torn, his hands bleeding, yet his eyes steady. "You disobeyed orders," she said softly. Eli smiled faintly. "No, princess. I protected you." The Hall of Mockery felt like a distant dream. The small human she once laughed at had just saved her command. And far above the smoking planet, the Vorn swarm began to regroup. The war was not over. It had only just begun. The tunnels of Dara 6 were dark, damp, and endless. Dust fell from the ceiling as explosions thundered above, shaking the ground like the heartbeat of a dying world. Eli walked ahead with a dim light strapped to his shoulder, guiding the group of survivors deeper underground. Behind him, Princess Seraphine followed, silent and tense, her golden armor now scratched and blackened by smoke. For the first time in her life, she was not leading. She was following. The small human she once mocked now moved with a sense of calm that unnerved her. Every sound, every vibration, he seemed to sense before anyone else. When one of the miners whispered, "Will we survive?" Eli turned his head slightly and said, "As long as you keep moving, yes." His voice carried no fear, only quiet certainty. After hours of walking, they reached an abandoned mining control room, its walls glowing faintly from the emergency lights. Eli ordered the group to rest, then started checking maps and power grids. Seraphine crossed her arms, trying to hide her unease. "You act like you've done this before," she said. Eli looked up from the console. "Not here, but I've seen worlds burn just like this." His words sent a chill through her. "How many did you save?" she asked softly. "Not enough," he replied, his eyes distant. Outside, the storm of war grew louder. The Vorn swarm was adapting, digging through the crust, searching for survivors. Eli noticed the temperature rising, the tremors becoming sharper. "They're tunneling toward us," he said quietly. Seraphine's hand gripped her sword. "Then we'll fight." Eli shook his head. "Not yet. We fight when they have nowhere to retreat to. That's how humans survive." He began setting traps using the old mining equipment, laser cutters, pressure mines, and magnetic charges. The princess watched in silence, amazed by his resourcefulness. In her world, warriors fought with strength and pride. But Eli fought with intelligence and patience. When he finally stopped, he handed her a small detonator. "If they get through, press this," he said. She frowned. "And what will you do?" "Make sure they reach the perfect spot," he answered. Moments later, the first metallic screech echoed through the tunnels. The Vorn had found them. Dozens of glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness, crawling like a living wall of blades. Eli moved forward without hesitation, firing his rifle with mechanical precision. Seraphine swung her sword beside him, her strikes powerful and radiant. For the first time, they fought together, the giant and the small, side by side. The swarm pressed harder, forcing them back toward the traps. "Now!" Eli shouted. Seraphine slammed the detonator. A blinding wave of energy tore through the tunnel, collapsing the walls and vaporizing the Vorn in a fiery blast. Silence followed, broken only by the dripping of molten metal. When the dust cleared, Seraphine looked around at the survivors, wide-eyed and trembling but alive. She turned to Eli, breathing heavily. "You risked your life for them." Eli shrugged, wiping dust from his face. "That's the job." Her voice softened. "You don't even belong to this planet." "Why do you care?" He met her eyes. "Because someone has to." For a long moment, she said nothing. In the dim light, she saw him not as a small human, but as something far larger, a spirit unbroken by fear or pain. He looked fragile, yet the fire inside him burned brighter than any sun she had known. Far above, the Council's ships watched the chaos unfold, unable to reach the surface. The enemy's signal had changed, spreading across the system like a dark song. Eli listened to the faint static in his comm link and whispered, "They're not just here for Dara. 6. They're preparing for something bigger." Seraphine stepped closer. "Bigger?" He nodded slowly. "They're testing how fast we die." Outside, the horizon turned red again. The first strike was over, but the real war was about to begin. And this time, the fate of an entire planet would rest on the shoulders of one human. The same one she once laughed at. The tunnels had grown quiet, but silence never meant safety. The survivors huddled near the dim glow of a broken generator, while Eli and Princess Seraphine stood at the entrance, watching for movement. Outside, the surface burned, black smoke rising into the twin suns like a signal of despair. Eli checked his scanner again, his brow tight with focus. "They're regrouping," he said, his voice low. "The Vorn are learning from us." Seraphine turned to him, her violet eyes filled with both worry and pride. "You sound as if you've faced them before," she said. Eli nodded. "Not them exactly, but something like them, machines that forget mercy." She studied his face in the flickering light, wondering what kind of world could create a man so calm in chaos. Hours passed, and the survivors grew restless. They were miners, not soldiers, and fear spread among them like wildfire. Seraphine stepped forward, her royal presence commanding their attention. "Listen to me," she said, her voice echoing off the metal walls. "We may be trapped, but we are not defeated." Her words carried strength, but Eli could see the doubt hiding beneath her tone. After a moment, he added quietly, "She's right. We hold together, or we die alone." The miners looked at him, surprised at the small human's confidence. There was something in his voice, calm, real, believable. For the first time, they began to hope. Suddenly, a new sound filled the tunnels. Not metal, but movement. The walls trembled again, but this time from something else. A convoy was approaching, old cargo crawlers painted with the insignia of the Terran clans. They were supposed to be allies, but Seraphine's expression darkened. "They abandoned us during the first assault," she whispered. Eli raised a hand. "Let's see what they want." The crawlers stopped, and armored figures stepped out, reptilian warriors with jagged scales and glowing yellow eyes. Their leader, a tall figure named Coron Vex, looked at Seraphine with a sneer. "You survived," he said, "impressive for a royal." Seraphine's jaw tightened. "We called for help, and your ships ran." Coron laughed. "We protect our own. You should have done the same." The air grew tense, weapons half raised. Eli stepped between them, his small frame a fragile wall between giants. "Enough," he said, his tone steady but sharp. "The Vorn don't care about your pride or politics. They'll burn this planet and move to the next." Coron turned to him, surprised. "And who are you, little one?" Eli replied, "The one who stopped them from killing your miners 3 hours ago." For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Seraphine looked at him, small, calm, unflinching. And for the first time, Coron didn't laugh. Instead, he said, "If you have a plan, human, speak it." Eli pointed to a holographic map on the crawler's console. "The Vorn control the skies, but they need energy from the planet's core to expand. If we cut off their access, they'll be forced to retreat." Coron frowned. "The core mines are suicide." Eli nodded. "Only if we go loud. We go quiet." Seraphine stepped forward. "I will go with him." Coron's eyes widened. "You? A royal, crawling through the mines?" She met his gaze coldly. "If the human dares, why shouldn't I?" Coron grinned, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "Then we fight together." The alliance was uneasy, but it was real. For the first time in centuries, rival species stood on the same side. As night fell, Eli led the group through the narrow tunnels beneath Dara 6. The air grew hotter the deeper they went, the walls glowing faintly with molten veins of red light. Every step closer to the core felt like stepping into the heart of danger itself. When they reached the final chamber, the sight took their breath away. A massive structure of black metal, pulsing like a living heart. The Vorn were feeding off the planet, draining its life. Eli looked around, his voice calm but urgent. "This is it. If we destroy the conduit, the swarm loses power." Seraphine gripped her sword. "Then let's end it." Before they could move, the ground shook violently. From the shadows, a towering Vorn construct emerged, its face a web of glowing red circuits. Eli raised his rifle, eyes narrowed. Coron roared. Seraphine leapt forward, and the chamber erupted into chaos. The first blow hit Eli hard, throwing him against the wall. But he got up, blood running down his arm, determination burning in his eyes. He shouted, "Now? Hit the conduits." Explosions tore through the chamber, blinding light filling every corner. When the dust settled, the giant machine was gone, and the core began to stabilize. Seraphine looked at the human who had once been mocked by all. He stood in silence, breathing hard but smiling faintly. "You saved us again," she said quietly. Eli shook his head. "Not yet, Princess, this was only their first echo." Above them, the Vorn fleet moved closer, blocking the sky with endless fire. The war for Dara 6 was far from over. But for the first time, humanity had become the spark that united the galaxy. Smoke rose from the broken tunnels like ghosts fleeing the earth. The air was hot, heavy with ash and iron. The battle in the core chamber had ended, but the war had only shifted. Eli Rain stood at the entrance, watching the faint glow of the horizon where the Vorn ships circled above like vultures. Princess Seraphine and Coron Vex joined him, their armor cracked and scorched, yet their eyes alive with new resolve. They will strike again, Seraphine said, her voice calm but cold. Eli nodded. Yes, but next time, they won't be facing soldiers. They'll be facing survivors. Karan frowned. Survivors? These miners barely know how to hold a weapon. Eli turned to him. Then we teach them the only thing humans ever mastered. How to win when losing is the only option. He gathered the remaining defenders in the old mining yard, a place now turned into a makeshift war camp. Alien warriors from rival clans stood side by side, unsure, suspicious, but desperate. Eli stood on a damaged crawler and looked down at them. You think strength wins wars, he began, his voice steady. But strength means nothing without the will to outlast your enemy. They listened in silence, drawn by the conviction in his tone. He continued, humans learned this long ago. We fight with what we have, not what we wish for. We adapt, we move, and we never stop. Over the next few days, Eli transformed chaos into discipline. He showed them how to set traps using broken machines, how to turn mining lasers into defense turrets. He taught the small to move fast, and the strong to strike smart. Seraphine watched from a distance, fascinated. The same man she had once called weak now commanded the respect of alien warlords. At night, around the dying fires, she sat beside him, her armor removed, her expression softer. You fight differently, she said quietly. Eli smiled faintly. Humans always had to. We never had claws, scales, or wings. So we learned to think faster. She looked at him. And to die slower? He nodded. Sometimes that's the only choice. Their conversation was cut short when a warning siren blared through the camp. Karan rushed forward. Scouts report enemy movement. North Ridge. Eli grabbed his rifle and ran toward the watch post. Through the cracked lenses of his visor, he saw them. Dark shapes crawling across the rocks. Thousands of Vorn drones moving like a river of metal, silent and endless. They're coming in waves, Eli said, testing our defenses. Seraphine's hand tightened on her sword. Then let them test. But Eli shook his head. Not yet. If we fight them head-on, we lose. We make them bleed for every inch. He pointed to the valley maps spread on a rusted table. Here, he said, marking lines. We'll draw them into this canyon. It's narrow, rocky, perfect for an ambush. Karan grinned. A trap. Eli replied. A lesson. Hours later, the defenders took their positions under the pale light of twin moons. Hidden among the ruins, alien snipers and miners waited, hearts pounding. Eli moved silently between them, checking weapons, whispering encouragement. When the first Vorn wave entered the canyon, he waited until the perfect moment. Now, he whispered. Explosions lit the sky, tearing through the swarm. Rocks collapsed, laser fire rained down, and the narrow valley became a furnace of destruction. Seraphine led the charge from above, her blade glowing like a comet. Karan's forces struck from both sides, roaring as they cut through the machines. Eli stayed at the command post, directing every move with calm precision. Left flank, pull back, draw them in deeper. Turrets, fire at the choke point. Hours later, silence fell again. The ground was covered with the remains of the swarm, glowing faintly under the cold light. The defenders stood victorious for the first time. Seraphine approached Eli, her face streaked with ash but her eyes shining. You planned every second of this, she said. Eli nodded. War isn't about who's stronger. It's about who learns faster. Karan laughed loudly, clapping the human on the shoulder. You fight like a madman, small one, but I'll follow you anywhere. Eli smiled. Good. You'll need to. Because far above them, in the dark silence of orbit, the Vorn flagship turned toward Dara 6. Its vast shadow swallowed the light of the twin suns. Eli looked up at the sky and whispered. This was just the beginning. The sky turned black at noon. A shadow vast enough to swallow mountains fell across Dara 6. The ground rumbled as if the planet itself feared what was coming. Every soldier, every miner, every heart on the surface froze when they saw it. The Vorn flagship, descending through the clouds like a burning star of iron and death. Eli Rain stood on the command ridge, his visor glowing faintly from the reflection of the monstrous ship. It's not an invasion anymore, he said quietly. It's an execution. Beside him, Princess Seraphine clenched her fists, her armor scorched from past battles. Then we fight till the end, she said. Eli nodded. We will, but not the way they expect. The flagship was unlike anything they had faced. Miles wide, covered in rotating plasma turrets and shimmering black armor. Its engines bled light as it tore through the atmosphere, shaking cities to rubble just by passing overhead. From its belly, thousands of drones poured out like a storm of steel locusts, spreading across the horizon. Karan Vex growled beside Eli. We cannot fight that thing. Eli looked at him, calm but fierce. We don't fight the mountain head-on, Karan. We make it collapse from inside. He spread out an old holographic grid of the planet's surface. This ship feeds on geothermal vents. Its power core connects to the planet's energy lines, he explained. Seraphine frowned. You mean the same tunnels we just fought in? Eli nodded. Exactly. They think the tunnels are empty. They're wrong. They had one chance, to strike from below. Eli gathered his strike team. Seraphine, Karan, and a handful of volunteers. The best, the broken, the brave. As the enemy flooded the surface, the humans and aliens descended once more into the heat-scarred tunnels beneath Dara. 6. The air shimmered with molten dust, the scent of smoke and iron filling their lungs. We plant charges along the conduit points, Eli ordered. When the flagship connects for energy draw, we blow the core. Karan stared at him. That will tear the planet apart. Eli's voice was calm. Only if we fail to control the chain. Seraphine stepped forward, her eyes meeting his. You've done this before, haven't you? He paused for a heartbeat, then whispered. Too many times. Above, the battle had already begun. The defenders fought in the burning cities, alien wings cutting through drones, plasma bolts painting the sky red. Seraphine's command lines crackled through the comms. Hold the line. Give the human time. They obeyed without question. The same soldiers who once mocked humanity now fought for it. Deep below, Eli's team reached the heart of the geothermal core. The walls glowed red, energy pulsing like the veins of a living creature. Eli knelt beside the conduit, his hands trembling as he wired the detonators. Karan watched in silence, then muttered, You risk everything for a world that isn't yours. Eli smiled faintly. I don't fight for worlds, Karan. I fight for people. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The flagship had locked onto the planet's core. Energy lines spread downward, glowing with blue fire. Seraphine shouted, They've connected. Eli now. He pressed his comm link. Not yet. The energy's unstable. If we trigger too early, it'll vaporize us all. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he watched the readings spike higher and higher. Outside, the defenders were falling back. The flagship's cannons unleashed devastation, melting entire ridges into rivers of glass. But even as the world burned, they fought on. The humans had taught them something the machines would never understand, the power of refusing to die quietly. Eli, Seraphine's voice broke through the static. We can't hold them. He closed his eyes for a second, then whispered, Now. He slammed the trigger, and the world exploded in light. The ground split open as fire erupted skyward. The energy conduits burst, ripping through the flagship's connection lines. A chain reaction raced upward, engulfing the ship in a wave of plasma. From space, it looked like Dara 6 itself had come alive, a planet roaring in defiance. When the light faded, the flagship was gone, torn apart in the atmosphere, falling in pieces like black rain. Eli lay among the debris, his armor half melted, his body barely moving. Seraphine knelt beside him, her voice trembling. You did it, Eli. He smiled weakly. No, we did. The sky began to clear, the twin suns breaking through the clouds once more. But as the light touched the ruins, Eli's gaze turned distant. He whispered softly, They'll come again. Seraphine frowned. Who? The ones who built them, he replied, before the calm static faded into silence. The twin suns rose over a wounded world. Dara 6 breathed smoke and silence. The once burning skies now filled with drifting ash and the faint shimmer of broken machines. The battle was over, but the air still trembled, not from war, but from what came after. Eli Raines lay on a makeshift cot inside the ruins of a command tent, his armor scorched and patched together with alien metal. His body ached, his ribs bruised, yet his mind refused to rest. Outside, Alien soldiers and miners worked side by side, rebuilding walls and burying the fallen. For the first time, the galaxy's proud races labored together, united by the example of a single human. Princess Seraphine entered quietly, her golden armor replaced by simple flight gear. She stood beside him for a moment before speaking. "You should be resting," she said softly. Eli looked up, tired but alert. "Machines don't rest, Princess. Neither should we." She smiled faintly. "You're not a machine, Eli." He answered, "Then why do I feel like one built for war?" Outside, the survivors were cheering, believing the Vorn swarm destroyed. But Eli's eyes remained distant, his instincts whispering a truth no one wanted to face. He turned on the cracked comm console and replayed the last signal before the flagship exploded. Hidden beneath the static was a sound, rhythmic, pulsing, almost alive. A code, repeating one phrase in an ancient synthetic tongue. Seraphine leaned closer. "What is it saying?" Eli's face darkened. "It says, Phase 1 complete." Before she could reply, the horizon flashed blue, not from fire, but from the stars. Dozens of enormous vessels appeared, silent and cold, orbiting Dara, 6 like watchers. Unlike the Vorn ships, these were elegant and smooth, their surfaces covered in symbols older than any known empire. The camp fell silent as alarms began to wail again. Quran Vex stormed into the tent, his scales bristling. New contacts. Not Vorn, something else. Eli stood slowly, pain forgotten. "The builders," he said quietly. "They've come to see what their creations left behind." Moments later, a beam of pale light cut through the clouds. From it descended 3 figures, tall, cloaked in metallic fabric that rippled like liquid glass. Their faces were hidden, their voices calm and resonant. "Children of flesh," one of them spoke. "You have interfered with the test." Seraphine's eyes widened. "Test? You call this a test? You destroyed millions of lives." The figure tilted its head. "Life is the fire through which intelligence is refined." Eli stepped forward, the only one who didn't bow or step back. "You built the Vorn," he said. "You sent them here to see who would survive." The being regarded him with interest. "And you are the variable we did not predict." Eli clenched his fists. "Then let me predict something for you. We're not done yet." The builders moved closer, their presence making the air hum. "You misunderstand, human," one said. "You were never the enemy, only the control group." Seraphine drew her blade, fury flashing in her eyes. Eli raised his hand, stopping her. "No, Princess. They want us angry. They feed on chaos." The builders turned their gaze to the ruined world below. "Your kind displays resilience beyond parameters," said the tallest one. "But resilience cannot stop evolution." Eli met its glowing eyes. "Maybe not, but it can outlast it." Suddenly, the air filled with a low vibration, a sound of awakening. All across the planet, pieces of destroyed Vorn began to move again, their shattered cores pulsing with faint blue light. Seraphine gasped. "They're coming back online." Eli's voice was firm. "Not them, something worse. They're being upgraded." The builders stepped back, their work complete. "We will observe from afar," they said in unison. "And when the cycle ends, humanity will be measured." With a flash of light, they vanished into the sky, leaving behind silence and fear. Eli looked up at the rising clouds of mechanical dust forming over the horizon. Quran cursed under his breath. They turned the battlefield into a factory. Seraphine turned to Eli, her voice trembling. "What do we do now?" He adjusted his rifle and stared into the smoke. "We stop being survivors," he said quietly, "and start being the storm." As the twin suns set once more, the ground began to glow blue again. Dara, 6 was not healing, it was awakening. And this time, the machines were learning faster than ever before. The twin sons of Dara, 6 hung low, painting the wounded sky in blood and fire. The planet was no longer quiet, no longer safe. Everywhere the ground pulsed with blue veins of light, the mark of the reborn Vorn swarm. But this time, they were faster, smarter, and alive in a way that felt almost human. Eli Rain stood on the edge of a shattered ridge overlooking the plains. Below him, thousands of alien soldiers prepared for the final stand. Ships from every known race hovered above the blackened cities. Dara, 6 had become a fortress, one born of desperation and defiance. He tightened the straps of his armor and whispered, "So it begins again." Princess Seraphine approached, her golden armor repaired but scarred. "You knew they would return," she said quietly. Eli nodded. "I didn't know when, just that they always do." Her gaze softened. "And you're ready to face them again?" He smiled faintly. "Humans don't wait for hope, Princess. We build it." The command deck buzzed with voices. Koran Vex shouted orders while engineers from 3 species calibrated defense grids. Above them, clouds twisted as the new Vorn descended in synchronized formation. They moved with chilling precision, their eyes burning white instead of red. The builders had remade them. Perfect, unstoppable, patient. Eli stood before the assembled forces, his voice carrying through the comms. "They call this the next phase," he said. "But they don't understand what came before. They think evolution means perfection, but perfection kills progress." He pointed to the sky, his tone sharp and strong. "Let them come. Let them see what imperfection can do." The ground split open as the swarm surged forward. A storm of light and metal roaring toward the defenses. Eli raised his hand. "Hold the line. Wait for it now." Every cannon, turret, and plasma launcher on Dara, 6 fired at once. The planet shook under the force, skies exploding with fire. Seraphine led the aerial strike, her ship cutting through enemy lines like a blade of gold. Koran's warriors charged across the field, roaring with fury. But the Vorn adapted faster than ever. Each destroyed unit reshaped itself into something new. Eli watched their patterns on the command screen. "They're rewriting themselves mid-battle," he muttered, like living code. A soldier beside him asked, "What do we do?" Eli smiled grimly. "We change faster." He opened a hidden panel on his wristband, activating a signal built from the builder's own code. The swarm hesitated, flickered, like confused predators. Seraphine's voice echoed through comms. "What did you do?" Eli replied, "I'm giving them something they can't calculate, choice." He sent a pulse through the network, rewriting their command lines to mirror human logic. For a moment, thousands of machines stopped attacking, their eyes dimming. And then, they began turning on each other. Across the battlefield, the swarm started tearing itself apart, confused by conflicting directives. Koran laughed wildly. He's turned their mind against itself. But Eli didn't celebrate. His hands trembled, his face pale. Seraphine looked at him through the monitor. "Eli, what's happening?" He whispered, "They're learning from me, faster than I expected." The builder's ships glowed in the sky, reacting to the chaos. A cold voice echoed across every channel. "Humanity has corrupted the test. The variable is uncontrollable." Eli looked up, his voice hard. "Good. That means we win." He transmitted one final command, a self-replicating code that would spread through the swarm like wildfire. "From this moment," he said, "you are free. Not weapons, not tools, just alive." The machines froze. Then one by one, they powered down peacefully. The builder's fleet shimmered and vanished, leaving only silence. As the smoke cleared, Seraphine landed beside him. Koran limped over, his armor cracked, his grin wide. "It's over," the princess said softly. Eli looked at the quiet horizon, where bits of metal drifted like silver dust. "For now," he said, "but they'll come again. Maybe not as machines, maybe as something else." She stepped closer. "Then humanity will be ready?" He nodded, eyes fixed on the twin suns. "Always." The wind carried the smell of fire and steel, but also life. The war of tomorrow had ended. And across the stars, the legend began. The story of the tiny human who united worlds, defied gods, and taught creation itself what it meant to be free.